Good evening. Hello there. Start over. Hi there. Dwayne McCachran here with the Community from Within. What am I going to call this podcast? Not the podcast, but what am I going to call the YouTube channel? Hold on. Should I start over? Hi everybody, Dwayne McCachran here with Community from Within podcast and our YouTube channel. Haven't really settled on a title for the YouTube channel yet. Once I put these videos together and put them online, I was thinking about recommended, as in rec, W-R-E-C-K, amended. Because a lot of the things I'm going to be doing are fixing up and restoring old items and just fixing things and showing how I do things. But anyhow, one of the last videos I did, I cleaned up and sharpened a pair of pruning shears, and I'm going to be using them now in this video, show you what I'm going to do with these willow. So at our previous garden we had a bunch of these big willows planted, and we prune them every year, and my wife wants to use them for making baskets and stuff. They come in great. They're great for, because they're long straight poles, they're great for making stakes in the garden if you're staking tomato plants or peas, that sort of thing, because they get quite, some of these willows can get quite thick and long. But so we were down there today pruning some that she's going to put away to dry out for making baskets. Excuse me. But I also wanted to, start propagating some of these on our own property. So what I'm going to do here today is start doing some cutting. To be honest, I looked this up a few years ago of how to do this. I'm just going by memory. The great thing about willows is there's some kind of natural enzyme in their own bark that helps them to root. So unlike other plants and trees where you almost need a specific rooting compound, willows almost do it naturally. So what you're supposed to be able to do with these willows, if you get it the right time in the spring, and you take cut it off at an angle so you can stick that in the ground. You're going to take it about what's that, 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters, something like that. I don't know if you're supposed to have an angle here as well. Put another angle. I'll put two angles on it. What the heck. So something's about 30-40 centimeters long, which is what, 13-14 inches long. And I'm just going to do a bunch of these and then go plant them. Anywhere that I cut already today, just it might have dried out a little bit, so I'm going to be doing a little bit more. If I can do this at a proper angle each time, I wouldn't have to do it twice. One other thing about these willows, well, a few things about them, I guess. If you have an area of your property that's really wet, they like wet areas, wet soil. They thrive on it. And some people will plant willows just to help soak up the moisture in the ground. They thrive in that sort of thing. But also what I love about them is sometimes when you have other plants that you're taking cuttings from and you want them to root, you take a piece of willow, and what you can do is you take the bark and just scrape the bark like that, and you add that, all those little shavings, you add that to the water. I mentioned earlier they have that enzyme that helps rooting, so you have almost like a natural rooting compound built into this bark. So I put that in the water that you're soaking the other plants in, and it helps to root them. I've done that a number of times. Oop. Something else I just thought of. Thinking if I'll do this today or not. I think what I'll do, I'm just going to plant these in a couple rows because we want to propagate them. That's the purpose of these ones today. But what you can do, you can look this up online, something called living willow sculpture or living willow design. You can use these willows, you can plant them in a circle, big enough that you would make almost like a small playhouse for a child or a hut. And as they start to grow, once they're big enough, you can bend them in toward each other and tie them together. And then every year, you keep pruning them, of course, but you shape it into this little hut type structure, and you have once the leaves come on them every year, you have a little instant playhouse. You get them big enough, I suppose you can make almost like a little gazebo. Wouldn't be truly waterproof or anything, but be a shade. And you can also build, I mean, these things bend so easily when they're fresh. When they're fresh, they bend without really, oh, I cracked that one. You can get a pretty good angle on them when they're fresh without breaking. So you can bend them into different shapes. People like, as it's growing, when they're young, you bend them in a certain shape this way and then that way. You have a bunch of them together beside each other like this. And you can interweave other ones 2 different ways. You can make a little living chair, literally a chair you can sit on in the yard out of a willow. And there's cool little designs. You look it up online, you'll see them. One of the things, one of the things I'll probably do this year again is propagate some grapevine cuttings. There's some old grapevines growing at our old property where these willows were, and as I mentioned before, that's what I used to do. I was trying to think of it when I was propagating grapevine cuttings. I would often use willow bark in the water to help stimulate the roots. And I've had great success like that, doing that sort of thing. I also mentioned, okay, so we're propagating these, and I want to keep expanding that every year and make more and more, because the other thing I read about willows just recently is you can actually make almost a type of hay out of willows. Once they're in full leaf in the spring or summer, you can harvest them and Apparently let them dry, and then you can put it away and you can use it almost like a hay for certain animals, like a fodder. I don't know if it was for cows or goats. I'd have to look that up again, but I think I seen that in an old magazine or something. Try to find that out again. But these things, when they do start to form leaves, they get pretty leafy. Just for the sake of it, I'll count to let you know how many I'm going to plant. $54. So today we're planting 54 willows. Let's get to her. Next stop in the field. Okay, so we're at the lower part of her property. It's quite a big muddy area here. And trying to remember if last year, no, it was 2 years ago, we had pigs in this area right here, bordering right down to the edge of the pond. Yeah, it was 2 years ago now. And the ground is so wet here. It's soggy, you can see it's just muddy, muddy, muddy. And, so we didn't do anything with this section last year. We didn't plant anything right here, and even letting it go, not much came back up, a little bit of grass. So I think this is an ideal spot to put the willows. I don't think we have any plans to plant anything else here for now anyway. And right by the pond here, it will do well. There's some other types of willows growing around the pond right now. There's actually one beautiful one that kind of overhangs almost like a weeping willow. And we're not sure what we're going to do as far as landscaping and stuff. We talked about getting some geese to put down here. But anyway, this is where we're going to put our willow cuttings, and we'll see how this turns out. I think if I can get it some decent, rows, that might look nice over time. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so there we go. We got 2 rows. That's what, about 27 each side. I didn't look up how far you're supposed to space those out. I don't know. But my logic is, since these are for baskets primarily, We want them long and straight. And when you want you want a tree to grow long and straight, you want it close together with other trees. But we also want to be able to get down in between them to cut them when we're harvesting. So there's our willow plantation, and we'll have to do some follow-up in the as the spring progresses into the summer. See if any if any of them grow or not. If not, I'll give you an update. I'll let you know. If they do, we'll see. Oh, as I was cutting them, I was just cutting an angle and then cut an angle again. That way, the second piece, I wouldn't have to cut it again. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think you cut at an angle for the piece that goes on the ground, then cut it flat, then cut an angle, and then cut it flat. Because if you saw me doing that, there's several times where I had to stop and look and see which way the buds were going, because I didn't know which end was which to put in the ground. Because you want to put it in the ground the same way that the original tree grew. If you put it in upside down, it might still root, but you're going to have a tree that has buds that want to grow the opposite direction. So they'll be going down and up again. I don't know if that would work. Et voila! Okay, thanks everybody. We'll keep you updated on the willow situation. So we're now in August, and it's been a few months since I did those shoots from the willow, and every single one of the ones I planted here in 2 rows has taken and grown. As far as I know, every single one. I probably should have, when they start growing, I probably should have cut back the growth on the tops so that the root structures develop a little more. But I think they'll be okay. I did expect more growth, but then again, it was a really dry summer. But well, that's how easy it was. Just a quick, just quickly cut those all up and stuck them in the ground. Literally, that's it. And they've all taken. So I'll probably do some more next year. That's room to expand here. Down by the pond. And yeah, so happy with that. That's your update. Cheers.